Today's top stories. Cotabato City votes to ratify the Bangsamoro Organic Law despite previous opposition. The military investigates the alleged immersion activities of the New People's Army involving college students. PNA looks into providing livelihood for marijuana farmers. And the DILG prepares sanctions against the mayors discovered to be missing from their posts during the onslaught of Typhoon Ompong.
Good day, I'm Pia Roses Morato. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Cotabato City has voted to ratify the Bangsamoro Organic Law. The unexpected move entitles the city to become part of the proposed Bangsamoro region. More on this from Rom Dulfo.
Cotabato City voted in two previous plebiscites against joining the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao. But on Monday, residents voted to ratify the Bangsamoro Organic Law or BOL, making the city part of the proposed Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM. The Cotabato City Board of Canvassers proclaimed Tuesday night 59% of voters in the city voted in favor of the BOL. Supporters of the BOL believe the new law would resolve the decades-long struggle of the Bangsamoro. But the mayor herself, Cynthia Gianni Sayani, has been actively campaigning against the legislation. Meanwhile, Lanao del Sur and Maguindanao also voted for the ratification of the BOL and their inclusion in the BARM. Both areas registered a landslide victory for the yes votes. The results will be official once canvassed by COMELEC in Manila. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Rom Dulfo.
The Office of the Presidential Advisor on the Peace Process hailed the conduct of the Bangsamoro Organic Law plebiscite. Presidential Peace Advisor Carlito Galvez Jr. says the conduct of the plebiscite is a manifestation of the sincerity of the government under the Duterte administration. Galvez says the president campaigned hard for the BOL's ratification. He called on everyone to respect the outcome of the polls and move on while mending relationships broken throughout the campaign. The Commission on Elections has started the canvassing of votes, with Cotabato City being the first to have results. The government is looking forward to the ratification of the Bangsamoro Organic Law, ending an era of war and misunderstanding of the Moros in Mindanao. Following a timeline that starts on its creation, we now look back at all the important points of the Bangsamoro Law. Joyce Cudis filed this story.
In less than 2 weeks from now, the much fought for Bangsamoro Organic Law will finally come to fruition after a decade and 3 administrations of work. In July 2008, the Arroyo administration and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front created the Memorandum of Agreement Ancestral Domain, a document that outlined the creation of a Bangsamoro juridical entity. On October 2012, the Aquino administration and the MILF released a framework of agreement paving the way for a new autonomous political entity, the Bangsamoro. The comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro was signed in 2014, concluding 17 years of negotiations. Late 2015, the House Ad Hoc Committee on the BBL approved the draft and the committee report of the proposed measure renamed the Basic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region. 17 senators signed the committee report on the substitute bill, then called the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region Law. In 2016, Rodrigo Duterte, the first president from Mindanao, assumed office with a promise of bringing peace through the passage of BBL. On January 25, 2018, the first public consultation on Mindanao on the proposed BBL was held in Cotabato City, Maguindanao. Later in May, the House of Representatives and Senate approved their respective versions of the proposed BBL. The bicameral committee approved in July the final version of the BBL, now called the Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. It will be parliamentary democratic, headed by a chief minister who will preside over an 80-member parliament. Then, the House of Representatives, now at the helm of House Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, ratified the ULBERMM. On Monday, January 21, the residents in the ARMM and the cities of Isabela and Cotabato voted in the plebiscite for the BOL. Another plebiscite will be held on February 6 in other areas that sought inclusion of the BARMM. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Joyce Cudis.
The Presidential Electoral Tribunal has nearly completed the revision of ballots in the 2016 vice presidential elections between former Senator Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Vice President Leni Robredo. The revision involved over 5,000 clustered precincts from the provinces of Camarines Sur, Iloilo, and Negros Oriental. The revision of ballots was completed on Monday except for a few ballot boxes, which were referred to the tribunal for further action. Proceedings for the remaining ballot boxes and decrypted ballot images will continue on January 28. The next stage is the appreciation of the ballots, after which the tribunal will determine whether to proceed with a case. If Marcos fails to make out his case, the tribunal may dismiss the case without further consideration of the other provinces mentioned in his protest. The MWSS joins efforts to clean up Manila Bay, and tensions in Libya have subsided. More on these and other news around the metro from Benj Bondok.
The Metropolitan Water Works and Sewerage System expressed its support in cleaning Manila Bay of environment wastes. The concerted efforts by MWSS and its concessionaires, as well as other agencies, come in the wake of a massive effort to rehabilitate Manila Bay. MWSS is among 13 government agencies named to report once every 3 months on the progress of the government cleanup of Manila Bay. Meanwhile, tensions from the clashes in southern Tripoli have disappeared as the situation in the Libyan capital has returned to normal. DFA reports that no Filipino was among the casualties in the recent fighting among armed factions in Tripoli. The DFA also asked Filipinos in Libya to anticipate skirmishes and to relocate outside the reach of shelling before encounters take place. In other news, the Department of Tourism denied links to the Wow Pilipinas movement, a new tourism-centered party list group vying for a seat at the House of Representatives. In a statement posted on its Facebook page, the agency stressed its apolitical and non-partisan nature. The controversial organization drew attention after its logo appeared as an advertisement on the ring mat of Senator Manny Pacquiao's match with Adrian Broner. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondok.
Still to come, the military investigates the alleged immersion activities of the New People's Army involving college students. PDEA looks into providing livelihood for marijuana farmers. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Ito ang Duterte on Duty. Ulat sa ginagawa ng Presidente. January 10, Huwebes, Bulacan. Bilang pagkilala sa kanilang kabayanihan ay pinagkalooban ni Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte ng murang pabahay ang mga nasugatang sundalo at pulis sa manugong engkwentro sa Marawi. Pinangunahan din niya ang groundbreaking ceremony ng General Gregorio del Pilar National High School at inanunsyo ang planong salary increase para sa mga guro ngayong taon.
I am willing to strike a deal in the presence of Secretary Briones sa mga maestra. You can choose the date, January. Bilisan lang ninyo, then we can make even an agreement or manifesto or choose whatever kind of document. Kayo ang isusunod ko this year.
January 12, Sabado, Bacolod City. Tinanggal ni Pangulong Duterte ang Chief of Police ng Bacolod City at 4 pang opisyal.
In your involvement in drugs and making the people of Bacolod miserable, I am relieving and dismissing you from the service of now. Senior Superintendent Francisco Ebrio.
January 15, Martes, Malacanang. Tinanggap ng Pangulo ang credentials ng bagong talagang ambassador mula sa Czech Republic at Commonwealth of Australia. January 16, Miyerkules, Malacanang. malugod na tinanggap ni Pangulong Duterte sa palasyo si Sri Lanka President Maithripala Sirisena para sa kanyang 5-day state visit sa Pilipinas. Nagkaroon din ng expanded bilateral meeting at pagpirma ng ilang memorandum of agreement sa pagitan ng dalawang bansa. Sinundan ito ng state banquet upang ipagdiwang ang pagkakaibigan ng Pilipinas at Sri Lanka.
Tonight is a gathering of new friends as much as it is a celebration of a returning friend. President Sirisena certainly qualifies as a true friend of the Philippines.
Ako po si Secretary Martin Andanar at ito ang Duterte on Duty. Abangan sa susunod na linggo ang mga gagawin ng Pangulo.
The AFP is now investigating reports that communist rebels are recruiting college students and taking them into jungles for so-called immersion activities. AFP Public Affairs Chief Noel De Toyatos says CPP, NPA, NDF recruiters look at students as a rich source of cadres. He says the rebels are deceiving students into joining them through holding rallies in the cities, immersion in rural communities, and eventually recruiting them to join the armed group. The remark comes as the PNP and AFP vowed to look into the case of UST student Risa Divine Kamingawan, who went missing after joining a supposed immersion in Quezon Province. AFP field units are actively coordinating with school authorities, parents, and students in dialogues and symposiums to expose these tricks of the communist rebels. A business consortium will handle the operation and management of the Clark International Airport in efforts to groom it into a premier gateway to Asia. More on this from Miguel Hill.
The North Luzon Airport Consortium on Tuesday signed a concession agreement with the Bases Conversion and Development Authority on the operations and management of the Clark International Airport. The agreement grants a 25-year concession period to develop the commercial assets, operate and maintain project facilities, and implement improvements on the new terminal in Clark. The North Luzon Airport Consortium allocated 6 billion pesos for the improvement of its new terminal building, which is expected to serve around 8 million passengers or double the current capacity of its existing terminal. The construction of the new terminal is expected to be completed by 2020. The NLAC seeks to promote Clark International Airport as the Northern and Central Luzon Gateway Airport through its partnerships with tourism authorities and airline carriers. The partnerships are seen to increase traffic, build a wider network, and establish connectivity to Clark with more domestic and international flights. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Miguel Hill.
The Department of Information and Communications Technology will relax its rules in granting permits for the construction of cell towers across the country. DICT Acting Secretary Eliseo Rios Jr. says the department will reduce to 7 days the process of issuance of permits for telcos. Currently, it takes 8 months to secure at least 25 necessary permits and documents on building towers. The department is eyeing to create an interagency task force that will lead the process of issuance of permits. To date, the DICT has signed agreements with 5 tower providers. It has expressed its intention to sign more deals to build and deploy other facilities that will be leased to telco firms. Rio earlier said that the Philippines needs an additional 50,000 cell towers to be competitive with its neighboring countries. New People's Army raided a construction facility in Sitio Pandarawan, Barangay Maragondon in Real, Quezon on Monday evening. Report says the rebels held employees at gunpoint while touching valuable construction equipment. The construction firm's projects manager says the attack caused the destruction of equipment used in mini dam construction, consisting of 3 dump trucks, 2 backhoes, a generator set, 1 transit mixer, loader, a van, and a pickup. Brigadier General Arnulfo Marcelo B. Burgos of the 202nd Brigade described the attack as a sign of desperation, saying the communist terrorists had begun to prey on non-combatants. Both the military and police have set up checkpoints and have launched pursuit operations to apprehend the terrorists. PNA is looking into providing livelihood for marijuana farmers. Meanwhile, Bulacan commemorates the anniversary of the Malolos Republic. More on this and other stories from the provinces from Janice Cave.
In Benguet, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency Cordillera is considering giving livelihood assistance to marijuana growers as solution to its persistent cultivation in the region. This came as joint operatives of PDEA and the police in Benguet and Region 1 destroyed about 12,800 fully grown marijuana plants worth 2.5 billion pesos on January 18. PDEA says it will coordinate with the concerned local government units to prepare a proposal regarding an alternative livelihood program for areas known to have marijuana plantations and will be submitted to the Dangerous Drugs Board for consideration and possible funding. In Bulacan, thousands of Bulaqueños celebrate Araw ng Republikang Pilipino 1899. This is the 120th anniversary of the First Philippine Republic at the historic Parasuain Church. Local officials led by Governor Wilhelmino C. Alvarado held a wreath-laying activity at the monument of Emilio Aguinaldo, the country's first president. In South Cotabato, the province posted a record low 3.41% in prevalence rate of malnutrition in 2018. This was based on their assessment last year on the 120,000 children covered by their nutrition programs. South Cotabato has consistently emerged as Region 12's top implementer and achiever in anti-malnutrition programs. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Up next, the DILG prepares sanctions against the mayors discovered to be missing from their posts during the onslaught of Typhoon Ompong. Cagayan de Oro fields its boxing team to join the Arafura Games in Australia. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders. Five northern Luzon mayors who were absent from their posts during the onslaught of Typhoon Ompong may face sanctions before the Office of the Ombudsman. Interior Assistant Secretary Jonathan Malaya says the five mayors failed to justify their absences and violated existing laws. Malaya says not being in their post during the typhoon may be considered as dereliction of duty, negligence, or other administrative offense. 6 others will be issued a written admonition for not being physically present during calamities and for their failure to supervise evacuation, rescue, and relief operations. The DILG reminds all local officials that they are considered on call any time of the day, even during calamities. Last September, the DILG issued show-cause orders against 16 mayors from Cagayan Valley and Cordillera region who were allegedly missing in action when Ompong hit the country. In our foreign news, Sweden announced its newly formed government with a new prime minister and 22 ministers. The newly elected Swedish Prime Minister Stefan Löfven announced the ministers that make up the government. Sweden's new government is made up of the Social Democratic Party and the Green Party. In his statement of government policies, Löfven announced the need of major reforms to be addressed across all political blocs. Löfven emphasized that Sweden will not join the NATO in his term. He also announced his country's staunch support to the European Union membership. Löfven was ousted in a mandatory no-confidence vote following Sweden's general elections on September 9. He was voted back and given Parliament's approval as Prime Minister last week. In sports, Cagayan de Oro's amateur boxing team hopes to compete in the upcoming 2019 Arafura Games in Australia. The boxing team will participate based on the recommendation of Philippine Sports Commission Chairman William Ramirez. Mayor Oscar Moreno says it is an honor that the PSC sees the potential of the city's boxing team. The Arafura Games will be held in Darwin, Northern Territory in Australia on April 26 to May 4. Thousands of athletes from 30 nations will participate in a total of 18 events. Aside from boxing, the Philippine team will also participate in athletics, badminton, basketball, beach volleyball, Muay Thai, sepak takraw, swimming, table tennis, and weightlifting. Farmer beneficiaries in Caraga region received trucks that will help them transport their produce. The Department of Agrarian Reform vows to provide more assistance to improve their livelihood and income. Venus Garcia has a story.
Years after enduring the challenge of transporting their farm produce, the Agrarian Reform beneficiaries in Caraga region will now enjoy a lower overhead expense as the Department of Agrarian Reform distributed to them 6 hauling trucks amounting to 21.2 million pesos. The blessing and formal turnover of the 6-wheeler hauling trucks were led by Agrarian Reform Undersecretary for Support Services Emily Padilla, Field Operations Office Undersecretary Carlo Bello, and Dar Caraga Regional Director Leumedes Villarreal. According to USEC Padilla, the provision of this equipment forms part of their agency's support service delivery mechanism that is much needed after the lands have been awarded to the farmers to sustain productivity. DAR is also fast-tracking the distribution of the remaining 561,000 hectares acquired lands. Apart from tractor, harvester, transplanter, and other farm machineries, the 97 hauling trucks are already scheduled for distribution to farmers in the different regions of the country. USEC Padilla also said the remaining 142 million pesos earmarked for farm equipment in 2018 will be added to the 300 million pesos appropriation under the Climate Resilient Farm Productivity Project, making a total of 442 million pesos set to be downloaded to DAR regional offices this year. Winifredo Maldo, chairperson of one of the recipient ARBO, said it will greatly benefit other farmer members because it will help cut down the expense for trucking services rental.
Nagpapasalamat ako sa Pangulong Duterte na siya talaga na nagbigay sa amin dahil alam ko yung si Pangulong Duterte na talagang man of the masses yan. Yung halong truck, alagaan namin yun mabuti na sana mga anak yan na hindi na kami naghihintay pang ng government.
Meanwhile, DAR Caraga Regional Director Leumedes Villarreal assured that the agency is geared at pursuing full mechanization to increase household income and improve productivity. For the PNA Newsroom, Venus L. Garcia, Philippine Information Agency.
Let's now check out the weather forecast for Metro Manila and the rest of the country. Let's take another look at today's top stories.
Cotabato City votes to ratify the Bangsamoro Organic Law despite previous opposition. The military investigates the alleged immersion activities of the New People's Army involving college students. PDEA looks into providing livelihood for marijuana farmers. And the DILG prepares sanctions against the mayors discovered to be missing from their posts during the onslaught of Typhoon Ompong.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. I'm Pia Rosas Morato. Good day.